on, guys? It's me again, and welcome back to the channel. This video is actually, I'm doing something different. So I'm actually doing a review on my very first, to me, zero turn lawnmower, and it happens to be a Hustler. And the reason why I bought this or I say tractor because I'm so used to this channel being a tractor or being on my tractor. The reason why I bought this lawnmower, the reason why I bought a zero turn, and my experience, the good, the bad, the ugly on purchasing a zero turn. So I actually thought of this video, doing this one for my buddy at work, Allison. Hey, her and her wife are up in the air about buying a zero turn lawnmower, or if it's even a good purchase for them. And I'm coming up on my 200 hour, actually I'm over my 200 hour on this lawnmower. I've had about 4 to 5 years now. I think I'm at 211 hours. So I thought it'd be a good time to just go ahead, share my experience of this lawnmower, and if you should buy it, if you shouldn't, and things that I considered when I did purchase this. So we'll get into that in a little bit, but first I want to just time lapse cutting this field real quick. This is actually out on my piece of property. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, I try to maintain at least this 1.5 acres right here, and then I have another acre in the back. I try to cut it every 2 weeks just to keep it maintained, because when the family and stuff want to come out here, or friends to shoot, or if we want to camp out here, at least it'll be maintained for it. So it's very hard if you don't maintain it and you try to come up here before you camp and the grass is this high. It's a pain. So I'm going to cut it real quick, give y'all a couple of different angles on it, time lapse, and we'll get back to it. So y'all stay tuned. All right, guys, so there you go. I just cut this field. It took me about 25 minutes or so. I didn't put it spot on. I should have done that for you guys, especially doing a review. I should have given a start, stop, but still new to this, doing channels. So let's get into it. Why did I buy a zero turn? Well, first and foremost, I'm a guy. I'm not gonna lie. I'd been eyeballing one for the longest. I guess, like I said, I purchased this about 4 or 5 years ago, and I've always been on the traditional riding lawnmower ever since I can remember. I was cutting my grandparents' yard at like 9, 10 years old, and snowballing from there, getting my own house, being able to cut it, and then sometimes cutting the in-laws' grass. So I never really showed much interest into one of these things until about, like I said, 4 or 5 years ago. Stuff, just because the simplicity of it and try to make things go faster. I guess the best for me, I've been sitting here brainstorming how I want to explain this to you guys and to Allison and Courtney. Basically, it's a time saver. All right, and in life, what price tag do you put on time? All right, so your life is always revolving. Everything's going by so fast, and grass is just one of those things. Cutting it, it could be therapeutic. I do like cutting it, but then there's also times like I got to get it done because I've got sporting events, or if I sit here and spend an hour long here, my kids are still inside. I mean, grass has got to get cut at some point, but then you still got kids inside that still need your attention. So try to mitigate that is being able to do stuff a lot faster, and we do that all as Americans and throughout society. We're just trying to find the next best fast thing to do. Dang, I lost my train of thought. Oh, it's always got to get cut. The rest of your life, your grass, wherever you live, if you are responsible and not a crazy person, your grass is going to get cut every year and you want to do it every week just to keep it maintained and have, especially if your neighborhood and have nice neighborhood. So that was my selling pitch for a riding lawnmower. I purchased this. I'm going off the best of my knowledge in my head. It was, I want to say $3,500, brand new, maybe pushing $4,000. But I did a lot of research on it. So commercial lawnmowers, I mean, zero turns, like anything, they give you a wide variety of range, and it's all on the customer, what you need for your application. So this riding lawnmower comes from the residential side all the way up to the commercial side, and they have that in-between buffer if you want to be kind of in between. For me, the size of this was a 54-inch deck. Personally, the reason why I did the 54-inch deck is you get a pretty decent cut on it, but I wanted something that can get onto my trailer. I already had a 6-foot wide trailer by 8 foot. Wait, no, I have a 5-foot trailer by 8 foot, and a 60-inch. It could probably get on there, but I would be scraping both sides of it. So I wanted to tailor back off that, so I'll be able to put it on there on the ease and get it off. So I got the 54-inch deck. This right here is the Hustler SD model, so it's pretty much, it's not the bare bone residential, but it's like the step above it, and I'll go over some of the features of that the best I can remember in my head. Good things about this one, I would say, if I want to start with the good, is I haven't had many complications with it. 4 or 5 years that I've had it, all I've had to do is put gas in it. Maintenance is key on anything, so I've changed the oil every year and never really had anything with the motor part on it. With this model here, like I said, it's a step above residential, and if you're doing any research in it, you'll notice you got hydraulics in the back, hydraulic transmission on each rear tire. On the residential side, from me reading it, those are non-serviceable. So once those go out, they're out. You can't, I guess you'd either have to get a whole brand new one to be put in place, but you can't service those, like, to the best of my knowledge. But I went up to the step above it where you'll be able to service those. So over time, you'll be able to change the fluid in them, check them, make sure they're good, and that. Also, this upgraded model had the bigger back tires, and if anybody's had zero-turn lawnmowers, the smaller your tires, the more spin that you have. So if you're trying to, like today, it's rained before, so if I'm trying to turn in this, the less surface pattern that you have on the ground, the more that you have that you're going, the chances of spinning, and it's going to be hard. You're going to get stuck, and you have to maneuver around a little bit more, especially if you go and try to do hills. You'll just slide down a lot easier or faster. So that's the reason why I got this model. It had the bigger back tires, the transmission, and also I wanted armrest was a big key, because I'm sitting on the lawnmower for a long time, so I want to make sure my arms are rested. And actually my arms stay on those all the time, and I basically have it. You'll notice some people will grab their hands on the very top and they're always doing this. All I have is my arms on my resting on there, and I'm just moving my fingers pretty much to go through this. So for application, for me, this was best, 54-inch, with the tires, the transmission, and the armrest. So the reason why I went to Hustler, I was in between a Hustler and a I think it's Gravely. Reason why I went with Hustler is Lowe's sells Hustlers, and if anybody that's a veteran of the military knows that Lowe's gives 10% off to veterans. So I went on to that and tried to save me a couple $100. So I ended up finding this one in Lexington, and I traveled down there and picked it up, and they honored the 10% on it, and I was able to save some money for that. So that's the reason why I chose this specific lawnmower for me. For you, take things in consideration of your yard size, fences. If you have a fence in your yard and you have a gate going into it, is your lawnmower going to be able to fit into it? Is your measurement, they've got these that go down to, I think, maybe 32-inch. So something that's easier to get into a fenced in area, if that's the case. That's a big consideration, because I would hate for you to buy one of these that's got a 5-foot deck and you're like, yes, I'm gonna cut my grass really quick and all that stuff, and then you can't even get into a fenced in back area. So keep that in mind. Your fences and your trailers are the biggest thing that's going to dictate your deck size. Also, going with decks, while I'm thinking about it on my head, the reason why I went with the Hustler and the Gravely area is because these are fabricated decks. So there's two, the best of my knowledge, there's two different decks that you're out there. You have your stamped deck, and then you have your fabricated decks. So your stamped deck is pretty much say you got a blanket of sheet metal. I won't say sheet metal, but a blanket of metal. It's just one solid piece of metal, and then they have like a mold that they'll punch onto that piece of metal, almost like a cookie cutter, and they'll punch it, and then it bends everything to a deck size. One thing is the metal is a little bit more thinner on those decks, and those decks don't seem to hold up a lot to if there's a lot of abuse to it. Don't get me wrong, it probably, for residential purposes, is probably fine, but to get that added assurance, I went with a fabricated deck. Fabricated deck is the pieces are put together and they're welded together. So that's why I got this deck. So while I'm at it, my brain's going all over the place. Let's just do a walk around on this one, and I'll show you some key things, and I'll start going into the bad side of, or what I've experienced from this lawnmower itself. So I've already talked about the deck. Come on here, you got your gas tank. I got batteries in here. I need to change some deer camera batteries, so I'll put them in here, and we'll do that after this. Come around. So the bad to this lawnmower, after having it about 3 years, I was driving around and I was cutting grass, and it completely stopped. Like, I could not drive this thing anywhere. So I looked under here and I noticed there's a belt up under, and the belt was off. It had slipped off the transmissions. So I put it back on and I started driving again, and I hit like a slight little bump, and boom, it stopped again. So I'd have to push it all the way back, figure out what's going on, and it was the belt again. So it happened 2 or 3 more times, and I'm like, there is something wrong on here. And what happened was this bolt holding this transmission right here was missing. So it had rattled itself out, and this was just kind of floating in the angle. So every time you hit a bump, it would tweak and the belt would flop off. So good, I found it. The problem, I went and got it simple, went to Tractor Supply, got a bolt and replaced it right here. So that was, I say, one of the bad sides to this, and it's probably user error to check all your bolts, make sure everything's tightened every season, I guess, throughout this. What I experienced this year, what was the ugly, I noticed after cutting that my back 2 wheels were canted in, which was not. This one was canted in and that was canted in. And I'm like, what is going on here? So I start looking, and I notice, where is it? I notice a bracket back here. There was a bracket right here. Well, it's still there, yeah. But it was completely cracked. It was like it was hanging on just a little bit of a piece of metal. And I was like, what in the world? So I took it off, was gonna get it welded, and I called local dealership, Clark in Greensboro, Clark's Farm, and they said, okay, well, we don't sell an individual piece, we sell the whole kit. And I said, I don't need the whole kit, I just need this one piece. They were like, well, you need to go ahead and check all the brackets, make sure everything else is fine as well. So I was like, okay. So I went over here, checked, and this one was completely broken. It was completely broken. And then luckily the one on the front that houses protection on front of both the transmissions, it was fine. So what had happened, and there's a bracket in here as well that it broke on the front. So what I realized, and this is my theory, there was no bolt in this one, so I had to go put a new bolt in it. So what happened, this bolt came out it started putting tension on these brackets. Once one bracket breaks, then it puts more pressure on another bracket, which will break, and another one. So I was pretty much on the last bracket before everything was probably just going to drop out from under here. Now, that was the ugly on this. I was like, man, why have I had both bolts on each side of the transmission come out? And this almost had a catastrophic event to it. Needless to say, it was out of warranty this year, maybe by 2 years. I think they do a 3-year warranty on these, so I was out of warranty on it. But Hustler actually gave a discounted rate on new brackets on here, and they're thicker brackets. So basically the whole bracket system for here was like 200 bucks. I basically paid $25. So that's another reason why I like Hustler, even though it could have been me not checking bolts and make sure everything, but I'm thinking to myself, bolts on transmissions shouldn't be slipping off that easily. But I had it for 3 or 4 years, and I've been cutting hour. I'm at a 200-hour mark, so that's a con on me. I should be doing a inspection through everything else. All right, so going to that was the ugly on this, and I think that's the only ugly I had from here. So I also got the Kawasaki engine. These levers down here, if you're looking, you pull them out, push them, and that'll unlock your transmission, so then you can free push your lawnmower if it gets stuck, or if you need to move it around somewhere and don't want to crank it on. So I'm showing y'all, so I'm not lying. Got 212 hours on it. And this is just engaging your blades, your choke, and your throttle. All right, guys, so there you have it. There is it was a quick walk around, a lot of me jabbering on, but I hope some of this information will help anybody out that's looking to buy a zero turn, and especially a Hustler. The good, the bad, the ugly of it. I've had way more goods than I have uglies, so I wouldn't say that for a downfall of this. Another good thing for any lawnmower owner, I would say that the next purchase I would ever buy are some ear muffs that play music. This has changed my life, and you be amazed, but one of my good friends, John Mack, just gave me these just randomly. He's like, I got a new set here, take this. Changed my life. Like, if I don't have these and I'm cutting grass, I might not even cut grass. I might just stop and wait until I can go back to the house and get them. That's how important those are. I have also a little grabber. This makes it easy if I'm riding around and got a plastic bottle. I'll sit there and pick it up, throw it in, or my kids, like my son, has baseballs and bats and all kinds of stuff. If you have trees, a lot of branches and stuff, always I'll just reach over, be able to pick it up, put it to the side, or a lot of times I'll just throw it here on my feet. If they're little ones, I'll throw them at my feet, and then at the end I'll get to a trash can or somewhere else and I'll throw everything away. So those are 2 things I would, Costco right here, 2 things I would get, or what I use when I'm cutting grass. Simplicity, time, and it's actually pretty fun if you're on it. You've done it the first couple times. Going to simplicity, and I'm about to finish up here, but my kids I've taught them now how to ride this and use it. They're 12 and 10 years old, and this year is their first year that they're actually learn how to cut on it, and then they've been cutting their grandparents' grass every week, which in turn is starting to show them responsibility, work, and then they also get paid for cutting the grass. So they also that's a motivation for everybody, but for them, instilling them, they were able to make some money this summer and then be able to use that money for whatever purchases they want personally, that we've started giving them to their responsibility. So there you have it. Allison, this one's for you. Courtney, got to cut grass the rest of your life. I mean, that's all I got to say. But no, in all seriousness, I appreciate you guys watching. And if this helped at any and all, just give me a thumbs up on this platform. I'm not real big. I haven't been real big on pushing, subscribing, liking, all that stuff. I guess I did at the very beginning. I guess you had to put that in a video. But it just shows that putting time and work in these videos, if it does work and help somebody else out, it just gives me more motivation to be able to make more videos out there from people that have just a regular citizen American that's no different from anybody else. So appreciate you guys watching, and as always, y'all stay tuned.